for putting this great day together, and it is good to be with all of you as we talk about the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. This is a priority for the Chamber of Commerce in a couple of reasons. Transportation really holds it all together for our region, for employers, commuters, residents, and visitors alike. The Hudson Bergen Light Rail carries 55,000 people a weekday, making it the 8th largest light rail system in the U.S. It covers many of the towns here in Hudson County. It does not include Bergen County right this second. And there are efforts right now to expand this to a potential bayfront site and then to finish the entire concept as it moves forward to Bergen. So we have some wonderful panelists today, and I would just like to ask if you would take a second. We'll start with you because she's the bravest. She's sat next to me. So everybody, Bill's stepped really far away. I don't know what that means, but we'll just start with you, Emily, and we'll just go down the line and introduce yourself and say just a smidge about the light rail and why it's important to you.
Hello. There we go. So my name is Emily Manns. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer and Director of Marketing at Invest Newark, which is the City of Newark's official economic development agency. And I'm a daily Newark light rail rider.
Good morning. I'm Shama Haider. I'm the Assemblywoman from District 37, which has 10 towns all in Bergen County. And the light rail is very important to us, even though it's not there. We've been waiting for it for almost 30 years. But there is so much pollution. We have the worst air quality. We have commuters who are forced to drive because there is no other option. And if you give commuters the option, it will happen. So I think what we, and of course, 5 stations would go through my district in 3 towns. So you can see why I'm particularly interested that the Bergen extension should happen. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Council President Denise Ridley, Council President for the great city of Jersey City and representative for the Ward A section of Jersey City. So the light rail is essential to Jersey City and to our residents. We want to make sure that transportation is a real option here, that the city is connected and that it connects us to other areas of the state. So the light rail is a top priority, including other forms of transportation that I'm sure you all are discussing here today, and we want to utilize all options.
Good morning. My name's Tim Henkel. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Penrose. We're a mixed income and affordable housing developer based out of Philadelphia, but very active here in Jersey City and throughout New Jersey. We have a 15,000 unit portfolio. So we're an owner and developer and an operator. Today I'm here as the developer of the first phase under construction on the Bayfront site, which is of course the destination for the extended light rail from the West Side Avenue Station. And just give, like I turned off. I needed to give my Hudson County street cred. So I'm a Secaucus High School graduate, so I feel very much at home here today. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Still Leah Katz, still with New Jersey Transit, and I would say that when I think about the HBLR, I really think of like what a great success story this investment has been and what a good example of what can happen when transportation and land use really work well together.
Bill O'Day, County Commissioner. I've represented the area where Bayfront is for 36 of the last 40 years of my life, so I'm very familiar with everything that's gone on there. I know how critical that particular station is, as well as all of the expansion of the light rail. You know, there's an old saying, build it and they will come. Well, Bayfront's being built, and those are 5, 6, 7,000 units in that area that are going to happen. And without a light rail station there, the already dangerously trafficked Route 440 will become almost impossible for people to travel on.
So I may reorder these questions slightly, but one of the things that popped into my head as I heard you introduce yourselves is, what's the deal? There seems to be the will to expand the light rail. Everybody wants to expand the light rail, but it hasn't been expanded. So what's the deal? Why not? Yeah, go for it.
It's.
Go for
Is it working?
Assemblywoman Hader's mic.
Now it's working. Well, at the end of it, it always comes down to the money, unfortunately. No matter how much political will you have, no matter how much you work hard on it, first of all, it was hard enough getting everybody on board. Everybody in Bergen, I know, is on board. But it's the question of the money. And the federal government is not anxious to look what they did with the Gateway Tunnel. They're basically forced to give the money for the Gateway Tunnel. So they're not anxious to part with the dollars. And they withdrew in 2023. So now I know Transit has to do a brand new thing. It's just always about the money. We in Bergen, we in Jersey have the political will. Bergen, Hudson has the political will, has the desire for it. But it's a very expensive project. It was slated to be 1.2 billion, but I think it's going to be way more than that. Can't do it without federal money.
So let's talk about Bayfront for a moment. Oh,
One
sorry.
second. So just
Commissioner.
from the other perspective, even with the federal money, we need state money. So when I've asked questions about the extension to Bayfront, I've been told, well, the state's got to come up with $500 million match in order to be able to even go for the federal dollars. So we've got to show the political will on a state level to get those dollars, right? And we've been fighting against the turnpike expansion for so long, and we know how many billions of dollars that costs. It's time to, if we need to change the law or legislation to allow some of those dollars to be diverted over to transit and to be diverted over to the expansion of the light rail, both into Bergen County as well as Bayfront. That's just what we need to do.
And thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, I think from the peanut gallery, which is me, you would think that many of the billions that are going to be saved on the Turnpike Extension project could be diverted to the light rail system with the same amount of jobs and a better impact, right? But let's talk about Bayfront, so you don't need to hear my opinion. We want to hear from experts, right? The Bayfront Route 440 extension is in the NJ Transit light rail capital plan for $250 million. So Tim and Leah, could either of you provide an update on the project, what it means, and what's it going to mean for Bayfront and for commuters alike?
Okay, so in terms of status, in 2020, we completed some early work at Westside Avenue Station to convert that station from a terminal station to a through running station to sort of get ready for the extension. And we did that while the sewer line that runs directly under the tracks was being replaced so that we could take advantage of the outage that was occurring. Currently, we are in talks with PSE&G on some of the utility relocations that would need to happen for the extension to occur. And as was mentioned, we are, in the process of looking to secure funding to finalize the design and construction of that, which, with inflation is honestly probably closer to a 300 to 350 million at this point. But it certainly, continues to be a priority for us.
So I thought it might be useful for me to give just a little bit of a what is Bayfront anyway, if everybody doesn't quite remember. And the statistic basically is that it's a 32 parcel, 100 acre piece of land that was the Honeywell site, somewhat heroically preserved by Jersey City activists, Jersey City politicians, Hudson County people. It's just an amazing constituency of people who got that done and turned that into land, not the least of which was the developable land, not the least of which was the attractiveness of the ability to extend the station. That site will hold at its build out somewhere around 8,000 units. And I always like to think of units in terms of people. I like to just do a little easy math, 2.5 to 3 people per unit on average. You're talking about 25,000 people living, in that location. It's exciting, right? I like saying it because I think it's wonderful. We've just started on the first phase, one of the 32 parcels, and it is going to hold 210 units. Our drive to be there was the attraction, in part, of the fact that we didn't want to orphan people on that site. So the transit accessibility and the ability to get out of that site was really driven by a lot of hard work done before. So I think maybe Emery, in answer to your question, how do we go from here? How do we make it happen? Is it's the same constituency that turned that into developable land, is now going to be superpowered with additional stakeholders to go further.
If I could jump in and piggyback off of what Tim just said, I think that what he's basically saying is true. It's time for us to switch gears. There were a lot of advocates that fought very hard for us to make sure that we were moving Bayfront forward, that everything got cleaned up, and we were building affordability. Now we have to switch gears and put the pressure towards making transportation a priority there on Route 44 and making those changes. I'm the chairwoman of the Bayfront Advisory Board and the chairwoman of the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency, and those are top priorities for us. And we've been trying to work with the state and New Jersey Transit to make sure that these are a reality. We know that that area is growing, not just with Bayfront, but with other development. And we know when we get Starbucks and Target that there's something happening, right? So we know something is happening quickly, and we have to prepare for it because we don't want to find ourselves in a bad predicament once all of those new residents get into that area.
And I think we'll continue with you, Denise, and Bill. One of the things I think that is interesting, and there is a question about championing this particular project, and you raised some other project ideas, right? From the economic development side, having a rail system is a wonderful anchor because now people know where to invest. It's not like a bus line that may go away one day, right? You have a real product there that's going to stay. So right now it seems that a lot of the projects that are built along the rail system throughout the city and county are then developed for high-end for-profit or luxury housing. But the people who need the service many times are low-income residents who do not have access to other transportation options. Can you tell us about the Jersey City's approach and Hudson County's approach to this particular project? Any history? Where do we go from here? So for Denise or Bill?
I think that that's very important to make sure that the affordability is there, right? And that's definitely something that we addressed here at Bayfront. So Bayfront is a place for everyone. As Tim mentioned, the first project has 210 units, right? And we were able to get 80% of that project to be affordable and workforce housing. So you have 32 units at 50% AMI, 42 units at 60%, 93 workforce units, and then there's only 43 market rate. So the goal at Bayfront was definitely to make sure that we have places that our residents can afford. We don't want to continue to build and push people out, but we wanted to build a place that was inclusive of the residents that we have here currently and encouraging more people to come into Jersey City.
Yeah, and I would just add to that that the 8,000 units that were referenced don't include other sites to the north, where I recently met with the owner of that, which is the DeFeo family, and they've got plans for 2,000 to 3,000 units on their site, which is literally directly north of it. So the need and demand for that is so critical. But beyond that, the city's taken a strong position within the redevelopment plan for the requirements of affordable housing, not just low mod, but also workforce. Those same requirements should and I know will be imposed on the northern parcels that may currently not even have the zoning in place to allow it to happen, but the critical nature of low mod housing and workforce housing on each and every phase of that project has to be part of the discussion. Without it, we just governmentally shouldn't allow the development to occur. But again, the sooner we know it's going to happen, because we know it's not going to get built overnight, but the sooner there's certainty that this will be built, even if it takes 3, 4, 5 years, once that certainty is known, the more and more everyone from the city, county, state, and other levels will want to make sure they work with private development and public-private partnerships to make sure all the investments are there. So by the time that station's open, there may not be 10,000 units there, but there'll be several thousand units there to guarantee the revenue to have people to be able to utilize the system.
I would just point out too that the affordability is a function of not just the price of the rental housing, right? It's a function of location, And so proximity of transportation options, proximity of services, the Acme is right there, food, transportation, and really healthcare are the three things that we like to snuggle up our affordable housing resources next to. And so that's where the Bayfront location is just get ripe to take off. And so I am definitely here today to advocate for the soonest extension of that train line into the Bayfront site. There's the master plan includes the notion of water taxis, so we shouldn't forget that there's a waterway there that can be used to translate people. So very much an intermodal location. The master plan, which I carry around with me, I know it's a little geeky, but is so well thought out, and that's the work that went before us, and that's what attracted us to the location in the first place.
I do not want to keep laying this on you, Assemblywoman, but here we go a little bit. Look, when I talk to people, commuters especially, or even people trying to enjoy Hudson County and the wonderful things that are here, I am told regularly that I hate coming to Hudson County. I just hate it, because you get to a certain point, whether it is Route 3 or 440, you have the Lincoln Tunnel entrance and exit, you have the Holland Tunnel entrance and exit. So people who want to come here to enjoy being here, to work here, frequently say, I don't like coming. So building out from the question before, the North Branch extension is 9 additional miles, 7 new stations, 4 towns. I think it'd be great for Bergen County, but I also wonder for the people who are based here, and this is maybe how I broaden the question a little bit. There seems to be interest beyond Bergen County to extend it to Bergen County. Shouldn't there be interest here in making sure that people from Bergen County and throughout the state can actually come here to enjoy what we have?
Absolutely. I think public transit is really a regional, we have to take a regional approach. What's good for Bergen is good for Hudson as well. In the other way, I mean, if I want to come into Hudson, I would love people to come to Bergen as well. So it is important for everybody in the region that we have this affordable, fast, clean, efficient, and environmentally friendly public transit option over everybody driving cars. And I think people don't want to drive cars into these areas because parking is hard, roads are hard to navigate. That's why they don't want to come. Not because they don't enjoy all that Hudson has to offer. By the way, you have great restaurants in Jersey City, and I've had food at many of them. But the thing is, we want it to be a two-way street for Hudson and Bergen, and it will be a two-way street, and it will benefit. And don't forget, everybody is not going into New York to work. People are coming to Jersey City to work. People are coming to other places to work. So this is why, and like you said, 9 miles, that's all it is. I mean, we're a country that became rich on building railroads. Our billionaires, our first billionaires, made money on railroads. For 200 years, we had the best railroad systems, and now we are unable to build 9 miles. That's all I have to say.
I would just want to jump in and piggyback off of something she said, that not everybody works in the city, and that's something that I've been saying through the years. Not everybody works in the city. I have a lot of residents. I think when people think of Hudson and Jersey City in particular, they think of people moving into the area because it is close to their job in the city or downtown, and not everyone works in the city. So adding that connectivity helps. Before I was a council person, I never worked in Jersey City. I worked in Parsippany, I worked in Paramus, where all of the corporate parks are. So the more that we can connect towns in New Jersey, we help more people. And if the goal is to increase transportation and maybe reduce some of the congestion on the roads, then we really have to start connecting the towns in New Jersey.
So Emily, tell us about your own experience as a Newark Light Rail rider, and from an economic development perspective, how would improvements to the Newark Light Rail benefit businesses, communities, and access to the airport?
Sure. So thanks for that question. So first, I'd just like to tell people a little bit about the Newark Light Rail because I think sometimes it's a little like out of sight, out of mind. So the Newark Light Rail has, 17,000 average daily unlinked passenger trips, 5 million of those same trips every year. About a third of those folks are taking it to get to another destination. So going to New York, going to Jersey City on the path, connecting to some other form of transit. And I think I like to say that because I take the light rail every single day. I live along the light rail in Newark, near the Park Avenue station. I take it every day to Military Park, which is where my office is. And it's packed. Sometimes it's standing room only. And I talk to people who just see the light rail that was built truly to serve kind of NJ Pack when it was built and between Broad Street Station and Penn Station. And they say to me, there's no one ever on the light rail. What a waste. And like, you don't see the one that's underground that goes from Bloomfield Avenue to Penn Station. It's full. It's full of commuters. It's full of people trying to get to their jobs, whether that's in downtown Newark like myself or into New York City or somewhere else. And so I think it's just such an important asset for the city. The only thing I ever hear from other Newarkers is like, why don't we have light rail in our neighborhoods, right? It really serves just kind of the North Ward and to Bloomfield part of Newark. And it's so convenient, right? Newark used to have streetcar lines before they were, torn up. And so people all across Newark used to have access to this form of transit, and now they don't. So I think it's just so critical. It's such an amazing asset. Downtown Newark, if you haven't been in a while, there's just amazing development happening. There is, we have incredible affordable housing going up downtown, also along the light rail because of our mayor's inclusive zoning ordinance, which is very progressive and well implemented in our city. And I think that the biggest thing for me now with the Newark Light Rail is how do we make it more accessible? And there's a capital improvement plan that New Jersey Transit has to make 4 of the stations accessible. And I think that's, really the next most important thing for the Newark Light Rail. My daughter had daycare in downtown Newark. I've carried that stroller up and down those stairs. I've helped people carry their strollers. I've helped handicapped people. It's truly a travesty, the lack of accessibility at those 4 stations. And I just, I think that's their next hurdle. And I'm so glad to see it in the capital improvement plan. And I just, I want to do what I can as a person, not even, this is really more personal for me, to be honest, to make that happen. I think it's crucial. And I'm tired of seeing so many of my fellow residents kind of struggle with that accessibility at those stations.
So Leah, you're New Jersey Transit, right? So here we are. And I know that Complete Streets had a number of questions for you, and I think some of them, and we can probably package a lot of them together. So from a New Jersey Transit perspective, right? What are you guys seeing in terms of the capital plan and expansion? Do you have the right-of-ways already secured? What's going on, and how can we help you guys along?
So there's a lot there, but so I would say, obviously it's resources with a capital R is what we need to be undertaking these major investments, and it's thinking really hard about priorities. And we're in a resource constrained environment, and we need to make sure that the dollars that we invest, are working for our customers and for the state as a whole to the best that they can be. And we think about projects, in a system as a whole, and making sure that we can leverage benefits from one for another. So that's sort of, our viewpoint as we're planning capital projects. I think the right-of-way that you're potentially referencing is if you were going to look at extending beyond Bayfront, even further. That's not something we own. That's a Conrail owned, for the most part, right-of-way. But again, I would say, it comes back to a discussion around priorities and resources, because, the reality is when you're in a resource-constrained environment, there are going to be trade-offs associated with every decision that you make. And if you choose to advance one thing, usually that means something else is going to have to take a back seat for a little while. So if you just look simply at the HBLR, we already have 2 major expansions proposed in various stages of planning. You have core capacity improvements like the Y bypass that have been proposed. There is a desire for increased frequency on the system. All of those things have dollars attached to them, and you start looking at even additional expansions beyond that. It really becomes, a discussion around like what are the priorities, how are we going to phase things, and how do these all kind of fall in line, I think, first and foremost.
And it's funny to me, one thing is like, why do people keep wanting to bypass Hoboken? It's a wonderful part of Hudson County. You should go see it. We shouldn't bypass it all the time. But one of the things, Leah, just to kind of go a step further, in operating the HBLR the way it is today, what kind of metrics do you see? What's the ridership like in terms of peak load times, et cetera? It seems to me from an operating point of view, sometimes there are complaints that there's not enough frequency to accommodate the riders. I know another one of the questions that comes up, and it came up in the last panel with the Port Authority, how are you collecting fares? Because it seems to be an open system. But what have you learned in the day-to-day operations here that might be helpful?
So, the HBLR is a phenomenal success, is what I would start by saying. So ridership, it really does very well. We've seen it bounce back post-COVID. I think not just HBLR, but really system-wide, and not just our system too, we're all observing sort of a bit of a rebalancing of when demand occurs and looking at how we can best respond to that. I think the off-peak period, weekend periods are places where we're seeing tremendous growth and a desire to be using transit during those time periods. So, we are certainly constantly monitoring demand and seeing how well our service is matching up to that, and then finding sort of what levers can we pull to make sure that we're meeting that demand. Because again, as I keep saying, it comes back to resources. And just to kind of like peek behind the curtain a little bit, when we talk resources, it's not just dollars. We're talking about things like vehicles, like head count, things like, okay, what are our maintenance windows then to perform maintenance on the vehicles if they're out of the yard more often because the service increased? Do we have not just enough operators, but do we have enough controllers and oversight and security and all of the things that go with it? So, when we look at the feasibility of some of these things, it's a very robust examination because everything here is really complex. But yeah, it all always comes back to resources.
Yeah, and there are a ton of other questions, but I know one of the challenges of having a large panel is there's less time to speak for everybody. One of the blessings of a large panel is that we have so many experts here. So as we kind of wrap up this section of the day, I would love to get your ideas about actionable next steps. There seems to be consensus both on the panel and in the audience to expand the HBLR, whether it's service that is existing or expand beyond the plans, right? Where do we go from here? What are things that we can do to make a difference?
I'll start with just, I think, a general thing that came to me today on the way here. So I took public transit here. Or I tried. So the light rail was canceled for street track repairs, which I understand is important. So then I panicked and I Ubered. Then I got to Penn Station. I ran up to the platform, and the path was canceled for a software update. So me and another guy were sweating. He had also just Ubered because the light rail was down, and we were running. We got on the bus. There was a bus that went, actually, I think, the extension route from Newark to here at Journal Square. And then I was so panicked and late. I Ubered from Journal Square. It's like a 12-minute walk. But I was very stressed when I got here. And I remembered something my friend Amy Jefferson, who's one of my best friends at grad school. She's moved to Minnesota. Some of you might know her. She always said, I want more transit professionals to take public transit. She was militant about that. She worked at NJTPA. She always rode her bike to work. She would get mad when there wasn't bike parking somewhere. She was militant about it. And I texted her. We haven't talked in a second. I texted her. I said, I really thought about what you said today because it was stressful. There was people sitting next to me that had to get to New York City, by 10. I'm just trying to get here to a panel, but people's livelihood were on the line. And I don't go to Jersey City very often, to be honest. because it's a little stressful on the weekend. There's a lot of cancellations. I was all harried and like texting people, and everyone else was just like, yeah, this happens sometimes, right? And and that's just, I think that's really, really sad. And that's why this investment in our infrastructure is so important. It's just everything that folks here are doing, that you guys are doing. This is not my lane, really. I'm in economic development kind of day in, day out. It's just so crucial. So I'm just glad to be here today with people that are trying to make this better for us.
I think things succeed when advocates don't give up. And I think that's what we all have to continue, pressurize the state, pressurize the federal government, pressurize your elected officials. Leave me out of it, I'm a supporter. But really, I think affordability is now number one on every political agenda. You will hear it everywhere. And that is why I'm so grateful Governor Sherrill decided to cancel that misplaced turnpike expansion. And hopefully the money will go to better use. And she has added money. I was happy to see she's added money for emergency money for, cleaning the buses and keep security in the stations. But we need to keep up the pressure. Everybody needs to keep up the pressure. That's how things get done. Attend board meetings, push for it, write to everybody. And we at the state and our level, we will keep doing what we can. But it has to be a concerted effort from everyone. Because I've taken the bus several times to New York. I've given it up now because it's just so inconvenient. From my hometown, if I miss the commuter hour, it's a slow bus which goes right through every corner in New Jersey. So I tried to take the ferry. That didn't work either because it ends up costing me the same as I was crossing the bridge. So we have to come up with good public transit which all of us can benefit from. Keep up the pressure, guys.
I believe we have to have more meeting of the minds, right? I don't feel like there are enough meetings with the stakeholders occurring right now to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody's on the same track. A meeting between the state, New Jersey Transit, and the local level officials to make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're continuing to move forward. If there's something that one level needs that they're not getting, we need to be aware of that. How can we all push to make this happen? Because transportation is a need in Hudson County, it's a need throughout the state. So the more that we can put our minds together and move things forward is important. So we definitely need to talk more.
I hesitate to go after you too, but I really want to echo what you said, and we hear it often, like the affordable housing, the part of the affordability conversation that's top headline now is at the end of a 15 to 20 year, like really campaign, like we've kind of arrived. And I think that's what's going on in the connectivity of affordability, safety, hearing the stories about people, having family members hurt at intersections. And then economic activity, which is, of course, jobs, all those things are interconnected. And when I hear elected officials say, hey, we need to get access to resources, they're basically saying help, keep yelling at us, not yelling at us, but yelling towards us so that we can use your voices and the power of your voices. And I think that's, we've learned those lessons. It's great to have a room full of believers. Believers grab a friend, double your counts, and that's how we turn the corner.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what everyone said, really, continue to come to events like this, to beat the drum, to, put the pressure on and show support. The will is there at transit. We just need the resources to move some of these projects.
And I would just focus on Bayfront, the same efforts people came together to fight and stop the extension, because it was something we didn't want to see happen. We need to think the same way and bring elected officials, advocates, developers together and just do anything we need to make sure that they show us the money, put the money there, and then hold transit responsible on a real timeline to just get the project done.
Hey, let's all thank our great panelists this morning.